Happy Fri-YAY! Today we're going to be creating a fun, bright card using the pop-up Petals stamp set, one of my favorites. It's super cute and I can't wait to show you today's card. So let's get started. Okay, so here is the pop-up Petals set. I love the flowers and the vases, and you can build these fun bouquets. There's sunflowers, that's what we'll use today. And of course, some great sentiments. And what's kind of fun about this set is the dies. So of course we have the dies that cut out the images, but we also have these dies that create some fun pop-up cards. Now we're not going to do those today, but they are super fun. I've done them in previous videos, and that pop-up mechanism is so easy to create with those dies. So I love, love, love that. Let me show you today's card though. It's bright and fun and super springy. It's using two of my favorite colors, Coastal Cabana and Daffodil Delight, along with some basic white that just brightens it up. Let me show you the inside is quite fun too. So let's get started. I'm going to move all this to the side and let's do some stamping first. So I've got a couple of scraps here, and there is this super cute butterfly image. I love it. So I've got my black ink here, and using one of these scraps, we're just gonna go ahead and ink this up, and we're gonna stamp. I always just stamp a few. What's really neat about these dies is they actually come, let me grab them to show you. They actually come with two butterflies, which I love because they're smaller, right? And so you can cut out two at a time when you run it through your die machine. So I would say at least stamp two so you can run those through. Okay, so we're gonna need one of these butterflies for today's card. So I went ahead and die cut that. Now we're gonna color this with our Stampin' Blends today, but I always have the rule. So if you are like me, normal, and sometimes run a die cut image through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and oops, it didn't align correctly. It was just off by a smidge. And you've just spent all that time coloring and things, and you have to do it over. And so I just kind of made the little rule for myself that I would stamp, die cut, and then color. So that way, if there was any die cutting boo-boos, well, at least I could just grab a new piece of paper and start over, right? So we've got our butterfly there. And then I went ahead and punched out some banners. This is from our 3-banner punch, and it works perfect for having banners. I have a little dish that I have a whole bunch of those just already pre-punched. So the sentiment that we're going to be using is thanks, and so on the stamp it's thanks for being there. We're just going to use the thanks. So I'm going to teach you a technique today to kind of use your sentiments in a different way so that you maybe only can use part of them. So we're gonna do some masking here. So I'm gonna bring in my Stampin' Up! Masking paper. Now I keep it in one of our blank DVD cases. You can get a pack of those, and they come, when you order your Stampin' Up! Masking paper, it comes in a pack like this, and they fit perfectly in these cases. And so they are whole sheets like this of our masking paper, and you can cut them down to size. So I have a couple of strips here already just cut down. We're going to use one of those, and our masking paper has sticky on one side. So you're just going to remove those strips, and we're going to take our masking paper and we're going to put this right over. See, we only want that thanks. So we're going to put it over, what does it say? Thanks for being there. So we're going to put this over for being there because we don't need that. We just need the thanks. So you want to make sure you get it over the whole thing, and then you're just going to stick it there. And you can double check by looking at the other side to just make sure that it is all covered, and it is. I was just double checking there. So you want to do that, and then we're going to ink up our thanks here. Just want to make sure that gets real good and inky. Now you see the masking paper's got ink on it. We don't want to transfer that to our banner here, right? So let's just make sure our thanks is nice and good. And then we're going to take off that. We don't want that. And then we're going to stamp down our thanks right onto our banner. I like to hold it there a sec just to make sure it transfers. And then we've stamped just the thanks and not the for being there. So it's a great way that you can modify some of your stamps if you just want to use part of the words. So like thanks instead of thanks for being there. You could do grateful for you, and we could cover up that R in the friendship if you just wanted to use that. If you just want, I appreciate that, you know, all kinds of things. It really opens up your sentiments to be very customizable, right? So we've got our thanks and that new little trick I hope you love. When I learned that, I was like, what? I could turn my stamps into whatever I want, right? So now I've got a piece of basic white, and I forgot to say this in the beginning because I was so excited about this card that I wanted to show you. But if you need any of the measurements, the supply list, or the step-by-step instructions, you want to go ahead and go to my blog at stampandqueenbee.com, and you can sign up for my weekly Buzz Bulletin. There's a little pop-up that'll come on there. It's a free weekly e-newsletter in your email box that I send with a printable free PDF tutorial that shares all the supplies and everything for today's card and each week's card. So the measurements for this will be on there. So for this one, we're gonna stamp, we're gonna keep using our black ink here, and we're gonna start with our cute sunflower image. Now I love sunflowers. I know sometimes we use them more in like late summer, but I just think they're beautiful year round, right? So late summer and fall, but they could be spring too, right? That's why we're kind of brightening them up a bit. So I'm just making sure my ink is all over there. Looks good. And we're just gonna stamp this kind of towards the center of the top of our basic white layer here. Just make sure that ink transfers good, and we have our stamped image. Okay, and then we're gonna do some coloring. So let me put my black ink lid on so that I don't put my fingers in there. And I'm gonna zoom in a bit so that you can really see what I'm doing here. So I've got my Stampin' Blends, and we're gonna start with Granny Apple Green in light and dark. Now this is a really intricate, small, detailed image, so we're not gonna do tons and tons of blending. We're just gonna do a little bit of shading and highlighting is what I like to call it. So I'm gonna start with the darker Granny Apple Green, and I'm using the bullet tip end on everything today because these are so kind of a fine image. And so I'm just going to take the bullet end, and along that middle leaf vine, I'm just going to add a little bit of the dark Granny Apple Green, and that's it for the dark. And then we're going to use the light Granny Apple Green, and we're going to fill in our leaf images. And whenever I color with Stampin' Blends, I like to go in like a circular motion, so I make little tiny circles, and I think that helps to kind of blend colors when you need to. Even though we're not doing tons of blending today, I still think that little circular kind of motion when you're coloring gives, at least me, a good look. Okay. There we go. Make sure we get all that leaf there. Okay, so then we're gonna move on to our, oh, I did miss one thing. The light green, again, we wanna do the stems. So you're just gonna kind of go right along those stems. I'm not really blending, I'm just kind of going right along them. Okay, now our green is done. Now we're gonna bring in Daffodil Delight, and we're gonna start with the light Daffodil Delight, and we're gonna do the leaves. So all I'm doing with these is just putting like a little little tiny bit of that. These leaves are really tiny, right? They're really small, so we want to just add the color right in those leaves. Or petals, I should say, not really leaves. The leaves are green. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and color all of these. And then once we get these all colored, we will take the darker of the Daffodil Delight and add just a bit of kind of shading to these petals. Where those lines are that in the stamping that the designers have put there, that's kind of where some shading might occur in real life, right? So we're gonna take the dark Daffodil Delight now, and on those lines that are already in our stamped image, we're just gonna add just a little bit, almost just barely touching those petals. We're not really coloring, right? We're just kind of adding just a little bit there. And it just kind of gives our petals, our flowers, a little bit of like added dimension, right? Not a ton of color or blending, but it just gives that shading, that dimension, and makes our petals and our flowers really kind of pop up there. See how that changed? Okay, so now I'm gonna bring in one of our new in colors that launched this week. Oh, it's one of my favorites, and this is Golden Glow. Now, a sunflower center in the fall is very kind of brownish, right? But in the spring, I wanted our card to be a bit brighter. And so we did the middles here with our Garden Glow light and dark. So I'm gonna take the light Garden Glow, this new in color. It's in color week, right? When they launch, it's like one of the best times of year because we get these fun new colors to play with. And ooh, Golden Glow is such a good one. It's kind of like a honey sort of color, but it is so rich and so pretty. So we're gonna use the light in the centers of our sunflowers there. And those dots, that detailed dots, we're gonna take the dark along with the bullet tip. Remember, we're pretty much only using the bullet tip today. And over those kind of speckle details, we're just gonna go ahead and add a little bit. We're just kind of dotting with our Stampin' Blends and adding just a bit of that on there. If you feel like you want it a little bit darker, we can go right back over it. Remember, you can always add. It's hard to take away, right? Okay, so then our flowers there, our sunflowers are colored. We're gonna set this aside. We'll stamp our pretty vase here in a second, but let's color our butterfly. Now, I know this one's a tiny one to see, but I think it is really pretty when we color it. So I'm gonna make it look like a monarch. So I'm gonna take my light Daffodil Delight first, and I'm gonna go ahead and just color all of our butterfly's wings here, okay? In the center there, I took our dark black of our Stampin' Blends, and I just colored in that middle center there. Okay, now we're gonna take Timid Tiger. This is another one of our current in colors. And so we're gonna take the light Timid Tiger, and where that kind of curly detail is there, right in the middle there, I'm just gonna add a light of our Timid Tiger, just a little bit. And then with our dark Timid Tiger, we're just going to go along the bottom here. Okay. Then I'm gonna go back to my Daffodil Delight, this time with dark. And between the two here, I'm just gonna kind of go over that to give it just a little bit of blending for our monarch kind of colors. And now I'll bring back in that dark basic black Stampin' Blend, and we're gonna add the monarch polka dots. to our, ooh, stuck to my fingers, to our butterfly's wings here. So do you see why I like to die cut these out first instead of coloring, and then if I die cut and it didn't turn out right, oh, that would be such a bummer, right? So our butterfly and our sunflowers are stamped and colored, so I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to bring in our inside layer to our basic white. Remember, all the dimensions will be on that free tutorial from me. So I'm going to bring in our sunflower. There's a single sunflower stamp, and I'm going to bring back in my memento. So we're going to take this and we're going to stamp 5 of them right across the bottom. I like to hold it there a second, especially with black, to just make sure it transfers real good. And I'm just turning my flower just slightly each time that I stamp it, so it looks just a little different, kind of going across here. 4, and one more. Number 5, right across. Okay, so we've got those sunflowers stamped, and I'll close this up. And now that is all of our stamping on the inside that we're gonna do. We have one more for the outside, but let's color these again. That way you can just see this while I'm zoomed in. So again, we're gonna start with our light Daffodil Delight, and we're just gonna go on those petals, just kind of adding that color. And because these are so small, and because blends kind of blend or bleed out a little bit, like that's the natural, what we want them to do, right? Is I don't always go all the way to the very edge when I first color it. So that way it gives it a little bit of time to do its awesome blending that we love, right? So let's just get all of these colored. I don't know about you, but I find coloring like this so very relaxing when it's quiet and it's just me in my craft room, and I can stamp some images and just sit there and color them. It is like, relaxing, right? Do you love to color? You'll have to tell me in the comments. Okay, last one here. We got a lot of sunflower petals, right? There we go. Okay, so then we'll bring in our dark Daffodil Delight and just go right along those centers to just give that little added bit of pop, dimension, kind of shading to our petals here. A couple more, and then we will move back to our sunflower centers with our new golden glow. So for the light golden glow, we're gonna fill in circular motion. We're gonna fill in those sunflower centers. So pretty, just bringing those flowers to life, right? Okay, and then with our dark, right along those detail kind of speckling, we're just gonna add all that detail in. Now our flowers are really looking good. Now if you want them a little bit darker, again, you can go right back over those and just add a little more depth to that. Perfect. Okay, so I think we have one more. We'll let that sit. And then we'll look at them. Look at our flowers. So pretty, right? Now let's add our our vase here. So we're gonna use this super cute polka dot vase, and I am using Coastal Cabana for this. So we're just going to ink up our vase here. And I just like to kind of walk that stamp along my ink pad here. We're gonna line that up with the bottom of our flower stems. Hold that there a minute so that ink transfers well. And then we have our cute vase. Oh, I love it. Okay, now that's gonna lighten up a little bit as it dries. And you'll see when we stamp it, it kind of looks like that. And then as it lightens, it becomes that really pretty Coastal Cabana. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom back out so that we can put our card together. So I've got our parts and pieces cut and ready to go here. So I've got Coastal Cabana card base. I'm gonna bring in my bone folder here, and we're just going to fold this in half, line that up, and burnish that right along. I like to flip it over and also do the other side just to make sure it's nice and flat. So let's add our inside piece first. So that's gonna be a piece of Daffodil Delight. You know, when we're layering things up on our cards, it really just, number one, makes our cards very sturdy, and number two, it adds just that slight pop of color that those layers together give us. We won't see this big yellow piece, right? We will see just a smidge of it as the border, and those layers really, I think, elevate our cards. So see, we're gonna put this one right over that, and that little bit of yellow border peeking out just really pops our cards. So when I was designing this, one of my favorite things to use is my layering templates, and I pulled them out, and that is how I decided which layers. Like, I didn't have to measure and think. I just grabbed my layering cards. You can find these on my blog. You can find the file for these, print them off. Labels are there for you to cut. And it's just really easy peasy to figure out which layers go together. The measurements are there, and then I know how to cut my papers. Now you can see why they're my favorite colors that I use today, because even my layering cards I cut in these two colors for me to keep. And then I just keep them in a little clear envelope right under my desk with easy access. So whenever I'm wanting to make a card or designing, I have my layering cards at my fingertips ready to use. Okay, so that is the inside of our card. Doesn't that just pop beautifully? So let's layer up our front of our card. So I have a piece of basic white that I cut, and I ran it through our Sunflower 3D embossing folder. So this is one of my favorite embossing folders like ever. It's so beautiful. You could do so many fun techniques with it. But when you emboss it on basic white and do nothing to it, it is just gorgeous as is. Isn't that just so pretty? So I went ahead and did that for us. And this is gonna be kind of our base layer. So I'm just gonna add my liquid glue right to the back there, and we will center this right on the front of our card. Okay, just make sure that sticks good with a good little back rub, right? Because it's an embossing folder and it's 3D, it's got really good dimensions, so you want to make sure your glue just really gets secure all over that. Okay, so pretty. All right, so then we have a layer of Daffodil Delight. So we're gonna put that right in the center. But what I love is that we still see the border of our beautiful embossed layer kind of peeking out behind all of this. So we'll just center this up. Looks good. And then this piece that we colored is gonna go right in the center of that. We're gonna pop that up with dimensionals. So let's just go ahead and add these. Let me grab my little dimensional bowl here. I love this because then my dimensional backings are just not all over the floor. And I love that I've heard from so many of you that you've ran to your kitchen and grabbed a little dish that maybe you weren't using, and that you too have a dimensional bowl on your desk. It really is like such a, well, for me it was a back saver because I was bending to toss my dimensionals in the trash every time, and maybe it was good exercise, right? But who needs that, right? So my bowl has just totally saved me on that. So we're just gonna go ahead and center this right on that piece. Now, doesn't that just pop with that bit of layers peeking through? So I'm gonna bring in now some mini dimensionals, and we're gonna take first our butterfly and we're gonna kind of fold it at its kind of belly, we'll call it. And that it's just gonna give it a little bit of lift. And then we're gonna stick it right onto our mini glue dot here and put that right on the center. And you can kind of pull those a bit if you want them a little bit raised. So see how that's just gonna add just a little bit of lift so our butterfly looks in motion, right? Now I got a glue dot on my finger, but that's perfect because we're gonna add a couple here to our sentiment. Now you could pop this up on dimensionals, but since we already have a lot of dimension, I just wanted a little dimension. So rather than using liquid glue, I want it to be lifted just a tiny bit. So the mini glue dots are perfect for that because you see it's a little lifted, but not, you know, full of dimension. Okay, so we got that. And then I've got some white twine here, and so we're gonna tie a double bow. Now, a lot of times I do this ahead for you, but I have had some requests to see how I do this, so I thought, well, perfect day to do that. So what I like to do is just pull my twine out, and this is, let's see, about 10 inches. So 10 inches, and then I've got it doubled, do you see? And then I kind of grab it in the middle here, and I'm gonna make my first loop. And then I'm gonna loop it around, just like I was like tying my shoes, right? And I'm going to pull my bunny ears, I guess you would call it, pull that tight so it makes that tight knot. And then I'm just gonna take, so I have my double edged here, I'm gonna take my snips and we're just gonna go ahead and snip that off. And that is how I make my double bow. So the last part of this is adjusting our loops here, our bunny ears. And so I like one to be just a little bit kind of inside the other. So I will pull each, so that way I kind of have, do you see where we can see kind of both loops? And then I'll just do the same thing. You can pull either the ears or you can pull the tails, and then you have kind of where you can see both loops there. So then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on, gotta find the next one here, on one of our mini glue dots. So I just put the knot kind of in the center there and pick that up. And then if it's a little too big, then you just kind of fold it over itself so that you don't see it peeking through. And then we're gonna take this and we're gonna put it right in the center of those stems. So it almost looks like it's around those. Now, if your bows or your tails are too long, you could snip those off. I kind of like them like that, so we'll go ahead and leave them. And then I'm gonna bring in, we got to have some bling, right? So one of our new embellishment packs that just launched, oh, I think it's gonna be one of my favorites. It's called Shimmering Dots, and look at these. They are so beautiful. So there's white and granny apple green and coastal cabana, perfect for today's cards. And do you see they have like flecks of glitter speckles in there? So they are just gorgeous. So let's take a few of these. So I've got a big one here we're gonna put in the corner with one of the smaller ones. And then we'll take one more smaller one and we're gonna make our little triangle here. So actually, I think we'll do it a little bit lower. So you see we've kind of got our triangle here, and that is always pleasing to the eye. So that is our fun, bright card for today. I hope you love it. I'll bring in my other one here. And I just think those sunflowers are like spring sunflowers because they're bright and they're happy. This card just absolutely makes me happy to look at. So let's just zoom in a bit so you can really see that beautiful detail. And then I'm gonna flip back around here, if I can find the button, there we go, to just thank you so much for joining me, whether it's live today or on the replay. I absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. Check out my blog to sign up for any of my classes, any of my fun promotions, of course, for my free weekly Buzz Bulletin, because you don't want to miss those free printables, right? They're so fun and easy to use. You can put them in your idea book and have them at the ready whenever you want to create. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.